Good evening and welcome to Stages for Ages Weaning Webinar. My name is Alison and I'm a mum to two boys and I've been working in the early years sector for over 20 years. Joining me tonight is Kim.
Hi guys, so I'll be joining you as well. One of the owners of Crackerjack's Day Nursery and have been in the industry for over 10 years now. And I also am a mum of 3 children, so have quite a bit of knowledge from that. So yeah, I'll be joining you too.
So today we're going to hopefully give you some tips and advice on how to wean your baby. If you do have any questions throughout, just pop them in the chat and we can answer those at the end for you. Okay, so what is baby weaning? So baby weaning is a process that you'll start when you start taking your child from a milk diet to more solid foods. And knowing when to do this, it's difficult, but obviously knowing your baby, following their cues, it will help you to identify when the time's right, when you're noticing that they're becoming a bit more hungry and the milk doesn't seem to be satisfying them and keeping them fed and happy for longer. By starting to introduce a small amount of solid food, you'll start with some mashed foods, mashed fruit or vegetables, and you'll start to introduce them to new textures as well. Always continue to offer the milk alongside the weaning process because you want to do a gradual transition. Gradually you'll introduce more food and less milk as the months go on. So stages of weaning, so around 6 months approximately is when you will start this. You can always speak to your health visitor if you're not sure whether the time is right to be doing that. And then you'll start to introduce the foods. And as the months go on, you'll start to introduce more textures, more lumpier foods. And by around 8 to 10 months, some finger foods, battens of carrots, other fruits and vegetables, toasts. And then gradually you'll start introducing the meals that you're having as a family. So it becomes a more family social occasion where you'll sit and have the same foods, but gradually introducing the different types. By 12 months, you should eliminate the bottle feeding and encourage the use from a cup. Drinking from a bottle can have many disadvantages for children's developing language. They need to exercise different muscles. So by using a cup, this will help this, as well as obviously tooth decay. Gradually weaning off breast and the milk, you'll introduce the solids at a time when you feel it's right for your baby and follow their lead. You know, the more that they're enjoying the food, and the more textures and different flavours you can introduce. Okay, so always introduce one food at a time. It can take children up to 10 attempts until they get used to a flavour and they may not enjoy it at first. Keep persevering. Once there's a food that your child likes, then introduce something else alongside the food that they do like. And you can then try different textures alongside the food that they like, so that you're always making sure there's something that you know they will eat. Handheld finger grasp food that they can hold will help them to feel in control of their weaning process, and they'll develop their pincer grip, which is really important for further development. And obviously just keeping it a really calm, fun environment for your child. We want the process to be a happy time for both you and your baby, and keeping it really positive. Follow your child's cues. If they start to turn their head away, the older babies may push the bowl away. You know, this is their way of communicating to you that they've had enough and that's when to stop. You don't want to overfeed your baby. You can always involve them in the preparations of meal times, getting them to use all their senses to explore the vegetables and fruits as you're preparing them, to get them interested in food. It's also important to consider common allergens, things like milk, eggs, nuts, wheat, fish. So when you're introducing new foods, always do one food at a time. Introducing it slowly will help you to identify if they are having a reaction to something and be able to pinpoint that food. Look out for any signs of allergic reaction. So these could be things like swelling, rash and hives around the mouth, on the throat, difficulty breathing, and if this happens you must seek urgent medical advice. Okay, common myths and challenges that happen with weaning is, the baby just doesn't want to eat solid food, and that's why it's important to introduce gradual, making sure you start off with a fully blended meal and then gradually introduce the lumps. As I said before, it can take, as many as 10 attempts of the same for a child to get used to the flavour, but persevere, don't give up. And as I say, always offer it alongside something that they do like as well. And again, the baby wanting the breast milk or formula milk, that is all they've ever had. That's what they're used to. So it can be tricky to introduce a solid food, but persevere. Still offer the milk alongside the food, and they will get used to the different flavours. Okay, so some healthy food ideas. Sweet puree potato. Obviously, it's rich in vitamin A. The colour is vibrant for the children, so it really does appeal to them. And then fruits and vegetables that can either be blended or can be finger foods, things like bananas, carrot buttons, cucumber sticks. Obviously ensuring that you're cutting them lengthwise so that they are not a choking hazard opposed to circular foods. And then also porridge. Porridge is a really good warming, filling food. It's full of lots of vitamins and nutrients for healthy development. Okay, so here are some more recipe ideas. Cheese and mushroom cakes. So ensuring that they've got the cheese, the proteins, the calcium. So it's rich in a lot of ingredients to help with healthy development. We've got omelette muffins. Again, you can add different foods as your child tries them to give the omelettes different tastes and textures. And soup. Lots of different vegetables, especially as the weather starts to get a bit colder now. It's nice and warming for children. Even a smashed avocado and banana. Again, like using something they already like. So if you've already started with the banana, and then adding in a new texture and flavour and to slowly introduce that one as well. Okay, so some other ideas that you can add into your food. So things like lentils, use these alongside vegetables. So if you've already tried, for example, broccoli with your baby, then try mixing a blend of lentils and broccoli so they're getting a good source of protein and fibre. And the same with spinach. Spinach on its own may not be so appealing to children, but adding it with something sweet like carrots, again, that will encourage them to try some new foods. Cereals are a really good way of introducing weaning and using the milk that they're used to, so introducing those textures and using different types of meats to give that really good source of. I've paused, I'm sorry. I'm assuming you'll be able to cut this.
It's okay.
Do you know what I was looking at? I was trying to work out what page number I'm up to. There's no numbers on them, is there?
I was just saying I just messaged Kim on WhatsApp and said, does Kim want to come in on that one?
Okay.
So
I'll keep going, sorry.
we're there, and then if Kim, do you want to come in on that one? And the great one.
Okay. When weaning babies, it's really important to also keep their fluid intake up. Hydration is so important, especially as they're starting to have the solids. We need to make sure they don't get constipated. So by introducing small amounts of water in a sippy cup alongside their meals. Some babies, obviously, if they're breastfed, may find it difficult to take milk from cups. It's just trying to get water into them. So even through a spoon in the beginning, just getting a few sips of water. You need to be monitoring that your baby is still having wet nappies and that they're staying well hydrated. As much as we want them to be hydrated, water and milk is best for them. You need to avoid the juice. Fruit juices, they still contain, as much as they're natural, they still contain natural sugars and calories, which don't support with the hydration process. So when weaning your baby from the breast milk or formula milk, we want to try and avoid as much added salt and sugar in their diets. So when you are doing foods such as vegetable sticks when you're cooking, don't be tempted to add anything in their salt where they won't know and miss something that they've never had. Additives in the food can cause tooth decay, high So when planning your menu for your weaning, think about different types of foods that are high in protein, ensuring that they're getting enough meat, fish or eggs, and the dairy products to foods to prevent anemia. And then there's the calcium and vitamin D, which can be through dairy products, supplements, and to support your bone health, digestion in the foods, and vitamin C to enhance that iron absorption. And as I've mentioned already, that water intake is so important to prevent dehydration. So when weaning from the breast milk or formula milk, we need to be mindful of choking hazards. So as I've mentioned already, having foods cut into battens that children can hold. Avoid cutting foods even into circles, which are the size of the child's trachea, which can cause a choking hazard. You want food that's soft, easy to choose, remove skin from the food, and things like hard fruits, give them a boil to help make them softer and more easier to manage.
Hello?
Hello.
Do you wait from here?
So what is baby-led weaning? So baby-led weaning is a method of introducing solid foods to infants. So cause any anxieties with the mealtime either. So it's a case of working with them at their pace, and if they're really adamant they don't like something, don't force it, because that will eventually kind of put them off everything, and then you'll find that actually they don't want to try anything because they think that you're just going to force it on them like they did before the last time round, and that's what they'll remember. So it's really trying to make things a positive. I was found if when they're weaning, if they don't like something, as Alison said earlier on, it can take 10 times for them to like something. So if you've got a couple of things, if you say you've got some sweet potato and you've got some banana, you could potentially give them sweet potato, try it. If they're I'm not sure about that, do the banana and then mix it a little bit of the sweet potato in with it, or maybe do it gradually, so a little spoonful and then another spoonful, and then try again next meal time. Know that actually if you note it down and note that I tried sweet potato and I really didn't like it, so I'm going to try that again on Thursday, and I'm going to mix a little bit in with that, but not too overpowering, just so that I get them used to it. It's about working with a child, having the patience, and just trying to make it as positive as you can. Another thing that we did was trying to make meal times as a family event, so having them in their high chair evenings if it's possible with you and siblings and the mum and dad if that's whoever's in your family. So trying to involve everybody so that it's an enjoyable meal time for everybody. Baby weaning advice and guidance, continuing weaning when traveling. Now this was a real tough one for me, because I was always out and about and had to, especially with my daughter, so she kind of came everywhere with me with work. So it was always about making sure that I had the right meals, and I didn't want to be going and just grabbing something at the shop and having a packet meal. I wanted it to be that they have the natural foods and it was home cooked. So every Sunday for me was about prepping for the week, making sure that I did my batch cooking, and then I froze it and I had it in either ice cube trays, and I would put them in there, then I'd put them in the freezer, I'd label it up so I knew what was in it, I'd have them in the freezer, and then literally the day before, the evening before, I'd take out a few ice cubes, put them into my little pot so I know it was defrosted, and that would be my meals, and I'd have them for the day. And the same with like the baby led, you can have the same, you can chop up little some cucumber and different things that you're going to give them into the battens, and then have it in packed lunchbox ready to take with you. And it's just about making sure that you plan ahead. The same with the bottles as well, so making sure you've got your powder or your breast milk ready to go with you in your pack, ready to go for the day. So common myths of weaning. So one myth is that weaning is a sudden process. It's not, and it's a gradual process, and it involves being slowly transitioning your baby from your breast milk or the formula to your solid foods. And as I said, every child is different, so you will work with them on their cues and at what speed they want to go. Be a little bit more dependent on the milk and not necessarily want that, so don't force it, because as I said, their tummies are really, really tiny, and it takes them a long time to make it, build it up to grow and to be able to digest the food. So forcing that on them, if they're not ready, it will cause them to have colic, it will cause them to have reflux, so you'll cause all kinds of different things, and then you'll have constipation. So it's just about making sure that you're working with the child, and when they'll tell you when they're kind of ready to develop and go further. So another one is babies need to be weaned by 6 months. Again, that's not the truth. You may have some babies that are showing signs that they need to be weaned earlier. So obviously they do say that 6 months is when you should start weaning. Now it used to be 4 months when the eldest was younger. So used to do 4 months, but then from then on, it was a case of if they're seeming, they're not sleeping, they're seeming hungry all the time, they're crying, I would go and seek advice from your health visitor or your GP and just kind of explain what's going on, and then they may, advise you to do solid foods a little bit earlier, but they'll assist you and support you with that. So weaning is stressful for babies. With a gradual, gentle approach, weaning doesn't have to be traumatic for babies, and as I said, it's at their pace. So weaning means stopping breastfeeding completely? No. So you continue with their breastfeeding or formula, usually around about 12 months. That's where they can go on to cow's milk. So it's that's where the milk will either start to reduce, your bottles should kind of start to reduce, and your meals have increased, but you should still continue with your milk as you have in your plan, in your feeding plan. So baby weaning advice and guidance, where to go next. So you can, as I said, if you have any questions or you've got any concerns or anything that you're worried about, you can always send us messages. You can always pop some questions in the chat here if you've got any. We are more than happy to kind of help you where we can. We do have some breastfeeding and lactation consultants in our community as well, so they may be able to support you if you have any queries with that. And also we have Ages for Ages have put together a weaning course, so that's kind of a step-by-step guide, so it can help you from start to kind of where to go, what to feed them, give you some recipe ideas, consistencies, how to understand allergies and what to do with those, and yeah, they're looking for cues of when they're ready and what you should do. Okay, so any questions? I'm going to hand that back to Alison.
Thank you, Kim. Do we have any questions? Let's have a look.
Yeah, so we've got a couple of questions that have been in the chat. I think a couple of them have been answered, but we'll just go through it again anyway. So the first two I'm going to kind of combine because they're sort of similar. So are there any foods that they can't have when they're weaning, and can they have honey?
Okay, so it is not advisable to give your child honey under the age of 1, and obviously cow's milk as well. Until you're 1 year old, it is recommended that unless it's cooked in your meals, that they don't have cow's milk as well.
Okay, and then what do we do if our children or babies have got tummy problems while weaning? Is there any suggestions that you can give for that?
Yeah, so it's really important that I've already mentioned about keeping them hydrated, making sure they're getting lots of fibre in their food to prevent constipation and to keep their stomachs emptied. If you really do have problems with your baby's digestive system, then I would seek medical advice from your health visitor or GP.
And then this was one that was mentioned that we touched on in the presentation about checking their nappies. So someone wants to know, how do they actually check their nappies for fluid intake? How do they go about doing that process?
So it's about knowing your child and how often you're usually changing them. And if you're noticing their nappies are dry, then that is a clear indication they're not passing urine. It may also be if you notice that it's more darker and smells stronger than it usually is. That's another indication that they need more hydration.
And one parent would like to know, what about children with requirements? Maybe they've got some form of additional need. Is there any recommendations that you can give, or is there any differences in the weaning process for children?
The weaning process is the same for all families in the case of you know your child and you know what's best for them. So following your child's leads, identifying what foods they do enjoy and providing those along new foods, because until you introduce the new foods, you're not going to know whether your child is going to take to that type of food or not. At this age, it's unusual to get a diagnosis, but as the children get older, and if they have a diagnosis, then it'll be working with your professionals and supporting your child in eating the different types of foods.
And then I'm just going to stop the sharing a second so we can see you. There we go. And what about, you mentioned, I think it was Kim that mentioned about the gagging or choking when they're doing baby-led weaning. How do parents know the difference between gagging and choking? What should they look out for?
Babies, it's a natural reflex in babies that they're all born with, the gagging. With regards to a gag, they will make the noise and the food will come out. A choke can sometimes be a cough, or it can be silent. So it's important that, when the child does make the noise, you look straight away for the food. Never be tempted to put your hand in the mouth and pull the food out. And putting your finger in their mouth could cause the food to go down further. So giving them that time to gag and cough it up. But obviously if the food doesn't come up, then you'd need to take action on the choking.
Do we recommend pouches such as Ella's Kitchen for out and about, or just general?
That is an individual choice. I would always say that the natural is best. You know what's in there. You've put your own ingredients in there, so you know if there's been anything added in there.
Lovely. Okay. And then finally, one parent would like to know, how do they go about joining Ages for Ages?
Kim?
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, no. So if you wanted to join Ages for Ages, then I will get the link put up in the chat so that you can sign up on there. But if not, you just go to Lucy. Do you know? Just agesforages.com, and you should have a look, see what we do. We do a lot of things really. There's a monthly membership that where you get everything. We've got mini courses on there, which would be for weaning courses. We've got home education, some like introductory to that. We've also how to go about it, because there's a lot of people that are looking for that. It's quite difficult, and it's deciding if it's right for you. We've also got some help from everything from sleepless nights to obviously the weaning, to how behaviour, teething. There's for all stages. There will always be something, and there's lots and lots of information that's going on there. Ages for Ages has been set up to support our parents and to try and help where the help isn't anymore. So it used to be for when I have my children that I could just go to drop-in centre, see my health visitor every week and have a weigh-in, be able to chat to people. And we just unfortunately don't have those services around anymore. And so we kind of felt that as a nursery, a lot of our parents were coming to us as key workers, and they were asking us questions, which actually it's really hard to kind of give parents that information on the door when you've got other parents and it's quite, quick turnaround. So we felt, let's try and find a way that we can support our parents and give them as much information and support and help as we can. So yeah.
Lovely. And I would just like to add as well, Ages for Ages are bringing on new people that are coming in as well. We've got the podcast as well that's been newly launched. So that's on iTunes and YouTube for all stages and ages. And you can get all of the information from there. But we are bringing on new experts, like you said, you mentioned you've got the sleep expert, they've been on the podcast. We've got a woman that deals with parents that are running businesses. She's coming on, she's been on the podcast and she's come on and helped and talked about, you know, managing your sort of balance and personal life as well as a parent, because that's important. So there's lots of things in the pipeline as well that are coming up, and if you join the community and the full course in the community, you get access to all of the new courses as well.
Yeah, no, and I've been listening to the podcast myself, and I think it's been great. There's been some really informative information on there, and it's quite nice just to hear other people who are doing the things that we're doing and just sharing their experiences. It's quite good. So, yeah.
Lovely. Right, well, that is it for the webinar then. So everyone is free to leave. I will send an email out to everyone that has joined with all of the details that we've mentioned. I'll also send a copy of the presentation out as well. The recording will be uploaded to YouTube as well. So thank you for joining. We'll see you for the next one.
Good night. Bye.